All right, so it's been 2 weeks, and this is how long have we been working together now? You came to me binge eating, right?
Yes.
Binge eating, but you were on, but you were also kind of a chronic depriver dieter, right?
Yes.
So,
one extreme or the other.
Yeah, so we're halfway through our sessions.
Yes.
So, and it's been a couple weeks. So where are you at?
I am doing well. I'm not dieting or thinking about dieting. I'm just comfortable with myself, looking in the mirror, and I think about what you said about what you'd be willing to give up versus living that way any longer. So when my mind starts to drift back towards thinking about it, I just say, well, I don't want to go back there. Robin always says she'd give up a leg or an arm or
Well, you always have to keep in mind the suffering, like the degree of, like what it requires.
Mm-hmm.
You have to look
misery.
at, right, and what you're looking for too. It's not just what it's going to take. Now that you have all this experience, right? Now that it's been decades of this, you could go, well, I know when I go back in there's always the payoff of the illusion that it's going to do something magnificent for me. And that, like, fantasy makes the suffering not seem so bad. But the fantasy doesn't exist. Because even if I acquire or attain what I'm seeking for, it requires that I suffer. So you kind of go back and forth between what are you looking to do and what is it worth? And so for me, it was like when you realize, I think what's really important for everybody is what you're fantasizing about does not exist. It does not exist. Of course, there are people that exist that are thinner, that don't have these issues, right? But that has nothing to do with being thinner. It's their state of perception about it, right? So how you're looking at thinnerness and what it means to you is really what's the problem, right? If thinness to you means being valuable, the illusion then is that if you're not thin, you are not valuable. Because you're using thinness to define value.
Right. And I keep finding myself thinking about that as well, the value of someone because of their body size. That I have friends that are heavy, and I look at them and I think, would I like them any less or any more? If this person gained another 50 pounds and really got heavier, would I like them less? No. They're still the same person, and I still admire their sense of humor or
it doesn't really
their job or whatever
Yeah, it doesn't change who they are or what they are. It doesn't change what they are or who they are in any way.
And I was faced with that this past weekend, and I was kind of worried about it going into it because I knew I was spending a weekend with two of my friends. We were going to go away for the weekend, and one had and I found out this right before I went, that the one had lost a lot of weight. I hadn't seen her in a few months. So she apparently got really slim. And then the other one, who had gastric bypass years ago, has been continuing to gain weight. So I'm faced with one who has just lost weight and I'm hearing looks great, and the other one that's slipping back into the really heavy old person that she was.
Mm-hmm.
Former, not old.
Yeah.
But so I was really kind of thinking, like, oh my gosh, how am I going to react to this when I get there? Like, being envious of this one who's lost all this weight, and then looking at the other one like well, I don't want to go back there.
Mm-hmm.
So it was
the old paradigm.
Yeah, it was really, like, I was really nervous that it was going to really foul me up with this whole, well, just eat when you're hungry, and being away with the two girls for a weekend, there's always lots of snacks and food, and what are we eating for dinner, and blah, blah, blah. So I was really nervous about going into this whole thing, but I think I came out okay. Like, I didn't feel like it threw me off at all.
Yeah, when you do you agree you have to have a real solid sense of yourself and what your boundaries are within yourself?
Yeah, I think
and
that
boundaries
helps you get through any situation.
for you, it's boundaries with body image.
Yes.
Like I am, if she's thinner and happier, good for her. If she likes to live in that cage and likes what she's doing and it's worthy and it's easy and it's rewarding, that's what she should do. You have to go into, am I willing to do that? Am I willing to do that? And then this.
Well, and the thing was too, this person who has bounced around with diets for the past, since I've known her, she didn't lose it intentionally this time. She has been sick for a few months, and not like deadly sick, but she's had some stomach problems that she just has been not able. So she lost it unintentionally, and she's not like flaunting it either.
Yeah, because it was probably really it was miserable for her. I mean, that's not like it was like
as miserable as being on a diet, because just the stomach issues and just not being able to eat because she gets sick every time.
And loss of appetite, and so there's no ego attachment to it.
Right.
Yeah, the ego attachment's really fascinating.
It's like a strange scenario. Yeah.
It's fascinating, don't you see? The ego attachment to, you see what I mean? Okay, so this is a great example of what I was just describing, where there are people out there who just don't have the same problems because they don't care. They don't attach things to it. They're not using it as some narcissistic, feed. They're not feeding off of it. It's not supplying them any sense of euphoria because they're not attaching survival to it. So her thinnerness isn't her survival. In fact, she would probably would rather gain back the weight and get rid of the gut problems.
Exactly. Like, what is this costing her, and what would she be willing to give up to not suffer, and like what we just talked about.
Yeah, exactly. And the sad part on the side of the person that had gastric bypass and is regaining is that I'm assuming if she is feeling bad about it or feeling like I have to lose the weight, I have to re-lose the weight. Can you imagine what that does to her feeding behavior as she's preparing and feeling bad about what's happening, feeling bad about eating, and just the badness that she's carrying with it, thinking that she's losing that narcissistic, I'm successful, that, pride that she took, and I did it, and this was, worth it. And now it's like losing its supply. Like, she's fatiguing in that narcissism, and she's giving lenience with the food, right? And so to be in that and to see that is just sad, right? Because don't you want to just say, hey, you're good. Don't worry about it. No one cares. No one's judging you. Of course there are assholes that are out there that would, because they're ignorant, but people that love her the same, whether she's thinner or fatter. If you love her, you want her to be happy, right? Again, it's like, so if thinness makes her happy, that's fine, but it sucks to see someone in shame of not being thin. But just, you got to sit and witness it, from the outside. So all in all, being able to experience that, don't you agree it helps you with understand your boundaries and understand yourself? What a good opportunity that was for you.
Like I said, I was very afraid going in that it was going to really throw me off. Like I was walking a line and it's just going to shove me into the ditch. But
yeah, but you needed to do that. To me, those are the experiences that really give you a grasp of the strength of your recovery. There's a sense in it of awareness. Don't you agree? That's, if you go into how strong your feelings are and how strong your awareness is around body image, that it's easy to feel strong when you don't leave the house.
Yeah.
I'm so strong. My recovery is amazing, but I don't go anywhere, and I won't let myself be with temptation, and I won't let myself be around thinner people, and I won't let myself, go into environments like, go out to dinner, or I won't go out and date, or, you won't expose yourself. And so the only
that
way
makes a lot of sense.
because you're afraid to go back into hell, but the only way to really solidify, if you want to call it that, the strength of your recovery is to be in reality and to get roots, like to root it, to ground it through being exposed to body image culture, going out to a party where there's tons of people. You could say the birds and the feathers are out. And
oh yeah, because then I had a class reunion this weekend too, so that was the birds strutting around with the feathers.
Right,
that was another one that I was afraid of.
Yeah, and to appreciate it to some degree. It's like we're so animal. We're such crazy animals, like a bunch of dogs at the dog park. Some of them have their shackles up, and other ones are like, oh my god, I can't do it. And then there's like, hi, how's it going? We're animals. So to be a part of that and to have this, being able to witness it without becoming part of it, to witness it and to, and we could say to participate, but it doesn't become you, right? Like just because so-and-so is thinner does not mean that I'm inferior. So what was being triggered for you, what made you feel that nervousness was the narcissism in yourself, the competition around who's the best. The witness of I'm not the best. Within that belief system. That's the key, right? There's all these belief systems, and I'm inferior in all of them.
Yeah. Well, and I tried to just think, in that scenario, I was just trying to think, well, I'm not the best, but
well, you're the best.
Level playing field with everybody. Like,
yeah, well,
there really is no best anymore. It's just
it's subjective.
All just here to reunite.
Totally, and it's subjective. Someone who thinks they should think that. They can think that, and you can go. You are the best. You are. You can have it. They can have it. That's what they need. They can have it. And to see it too, I think is really important. To actually go and to witness it. And what you'll find too is it's actually not that common. Most people don't care. They genuinely want to know, how are you doing? What's going on in your life? They're not playing this game of who's winning and who's losing. There are people that are stuck in that juvenile game. They're stuck in it for whatever reason. And so to put yourself out there it really is somewhat strengthening. Even if you relapse, just even if you can't sense your boundaries and you get kind of sucked in, or it's pervasively overwhelming for you, and you go back into that brainwashing type of mentality, you would have gone back into hell, right? So you would have started to suffer all over again. The binging would have recurred again. You would need to impulsively diet again. You would have wanted to be thinner. So immediately you would go back into that suffering.
Yeah, and I wasn't walking across that threshold, that's for sure.
Well, and sometimes that needs to happen for people to develop a sense of their awareness around their need for letting this go, right? So sometimes people, it's like a gradual strengthening process, and once people suffer enough, it's to get to where you're just like, I just would rather show up and just admit ahead of time, get my narcissistic animal brain to shut up by telling it immediately it is inferior. And then go and enjoy myself, right? I'm not going to be the winner. So, right. So what?
I survived it. Yay.
Yeah, and really to witness how you responded. So like I said, it's like you need to get out there and get a sense of it to know where you're at. Do you get a sense of what else would create any vulnerability? So if you go into that vulnerability, what would it be?
Well, I'm not sure. Give me an example. Give me a lead here.
Dating.
That would definitely make you feel vulnerable.
Right? Yeah, go into that. Go into that ahead of time. Just feel it out.
Oh my goodness. I don't even want to remember that.
Yeah, but
that was awkward.
Put yourself in that position.
Yeah, feeling good enough, feel like you're being judged, rated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
being looked at under a microscope.
Yeah, and being rejected. Someone's not going to think you're attractive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, don't miss that.
Imagine the willingness to be rejected that you would need to go through to not go back into the dark cage of anorexic hell that ends in binge eating anyways, but what that would take for you to go into the vulnerability of rejection and not go back into that type of control and inflammatory thinking to avoid the vulnerability, right?
Yeah, because I imagine, too, the first time you're rejected, man, that would really throw you back into a tailspin and feeling like you have to correct things to make it right.
Yeah, that is if you don't have a solid sense of yourself. Correct. That's what would happen.
Right.
Because rejection, if you are basing your value relative to validation, when you are not given validation and you are given rejection, that can create chaos, internal drama and chaos, because you're using it as evidence. So you're using validation as evidence of your worth, right? So you're taking this whole concept of worth and you're basing its truth around someone's subjective ideology of your worth.
Wow. Yeah, and it takes a strong person to realize that it's not correct just because someone else thought that.
So, the strong person, when you say it takes a strong person, it actually just takes someone who has a very strong sense of their reality, the truth of themselves. And they validate it themselves. And so it's like of course there's subjectivity around what we think we are and what we think makes us valuable, but being objective within your truth, like, here is reality. You may want me to be more religious, but I don't find it attractive. You may want me to be, a blonde, but I'm not willing to dye my hair. There's a truth within it, right? So you may think I should be meet these certain dogmatic standards, but the truth is, even if I could comply, and I have the ability to comply, I don't want to. So there's a truth around your reality compared to someone else's projection of what they think you should be, right? Their subjective idea of what they think people should be versus the being objective around what is real. I don't know if that made any sense, right? So that's what we're really doing, whether you're going to date or not, right? Whether you're going into that vulnerability, it is being very consciously aware of what is real within yourself and validating it for yourself versus needing it to be validated to then gratify that sense of safety and security that we're all seeking as animals, as pack animals, right? So there's the person who is validating it for themselves, and it's not in a narcissistic, grandiose self-importance. It's, I accept my humanness, ego included. Like, I'm human. I love this music. They're being realistic within themselves and graceful, right? Versus someone who is not going from to within, and they're creating an identity that is based on cultural ideology. So they create a subjective concept of self relative to being validated by the systems of our culture. let me see if I can explain this more simply. There are people who create a sense of identity within the realism of themselves. Like what's realistic, what they can do, what they can't do, what is self-gratifying, what, the intrinsic gratification. And they're very aware of their differences. And they don't believe that being different is bad. Right? So they're more willing to be different, and there's a stronger sense of reality within themselves. Okay? I don't want to say a stronger sense of their differences. That's a state of duality. That's saying I'm this way, you're that way. That's not what we're talking about, but that there is a difference between their reality and the idea that culture says you should be and to conform to. They can tell the difference. Versus so that person is really validating themselves. I am a worthy human being relative to my reality, where I'm at. The truth is that I'm not really good at, what's the word? Religion, if I were to use myself. Did not work for me. In fact, it was terrible for me. But I'm really good at spirituality. I'm really, really good at that. Maybe because it's more liberal. More gracious when I say that. More lenient, more loving, more forgiving. It's more open-minded. And that's maybe what I needed. I'm not saying that being religious or religiosity is bad. It just didn't work for me. Some people need that. I don't think there's anything wrong with needing that.
Yeah, same thing. If it works for the individual, then
that's what they should do.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Right. So do you see how I have a very clear understanding of me relative to dogma or some idea? So my point is, when you validate yourself, other people's criticisms and comparing you to certain dogmatic standards is less relevant. It has less effect on you because you're validating your reality. So you don't need people to validate you. You become less needy and codependent, if you want to say it that way. And you become more realistic around what's reachable within cultural systems. Right? The problem with being reliant on getting validation is it's often based on cultural dogma. Right? And so you're left to chase, to secure your survival, a system's gratification, a system's feedback, a person's feedback. You're constantly looking at other people to say, you're good enough. And even when they do say that, there's still a sense of I'm not inherently good enough, that you're not gratifying for yourself. So you're not validating it for yourself, which is really important to secure that pack animal need to feel that we are lovable. I'm a lovable human being. You're still looking outside of your reality. So you're always going to be insecure. Does that make sense? Even if you have a strong hold, even if you have a very strong hold on dogma, right? Whether it's religious, political, body image, money, consumption, stuff. My house is bigger than yours. My car. Whatever it is. Oh, stop it. There's no need for that. Now I know you don't need to do that. Sorry. Even if you have a very strong connection to validation through some ideal system, being programmed, you're strongly connected to the program that you believe gives you enough validation to feel good about yourself, still insecure because it's not coming from yourself. It's
right, and if that one thing is taken away, you're nothing.
Correct. So what you end up doing is you constantly seek validation you're defending your system now. So that's where religious radicalism comes in, political radicalism comes in, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Right? So anything that might be, anything that is showing a difference creates cognitive dissonance, which is when you believe something is truthful and sacred, but then reality is showing, well, there's problems here. there's tons of cognitive dissonance because it's essentially triggering that animal sense of I'm valuable because my system's being attacked. The system that brings me that narcissistic, supply is being attacked. So you become highly protective of it, even if you're sabotaging your personal family relations. Right? That's as an example.
Mm-hmm.
That's similar to the thin supremacy where you've held your validation, it came from thinness, right? So you latched onto thinness as what makes you feel secure. So it's not you that's secure, it's the thinness that is secure, and you're just latching onto it because you know that is a system that will validate your lovability, right? So if you overeat, that will create dissonance, right? Because your reality of being a human and needing food is now conflicting with this fantasy of we should all be able to starve ourselves in a healthy way. That means you're superior, right? There's the diet dogma that goes along with it. And so when you're overweight or you start to gain weight, then you're left with the original insecurity. And you feel the lack of validation, and you think it's because of the body. So you can get confusing when you're in it because no one questions the safety and security that's an illusion. It's not real. It's an illusion that they've attached to being thinner. And some people think, well, it's not an illusion. People are better when you're thinner. You get treated nicer. You get better. There's tons of research to show that there is stigma around obesity, and as people get thinner, they get more raises. Yes, that is true, but it is conditional. It's not real. It's a lie. You're basically lying with thinness, right? Mm-hmm. But Robin, people like me when I lie. Well, yeah, but
that's what I'm thinking.
That's fine, but it comes at a really high cost.
Lie gets you through.
It's like I have to change. I have to lie about reality because I don't think that it's worthy of validation myself. And that's the issue, right? Is that did you ever believe that you were worthy and validatable without thinness? Again, You're validating your friend, even the one that's getting bigger. In your mind, you're going, well, I validate her. You're not using that terminology, but in your mind, you're like, I love her. I care about her. She's good enough. She's a great person. So in your mind, you're giving her validation. She's still worthy of that validation, and you're witnessing her worth as a human being and her humanness and the intrinsic worth of it without conditions. Even though her conditions are going against the thin supremacy conditions, right? So the problem before was that you did not believe that you were validatable if you were overweight. And when you perceive that, when you have that way of thinking, that's all you know. It's not like you know how other people think. All you experience in your life is your thinking. That's it. Your mind, your perceptions, that's all you're actually experiencing. You're not in someone else's consciousness. Right? Yeah. So if you feel that you are not worthy, you're going to make the assumption that everybody else is going to think the same thing. Because that's all you know. You don't know anything, any alternative. Right? Am I making any sense?
Yeah, no, it's very interesting the way to look at it.
Well, you've got to be, in the end, if we want to be simple about this, you just need to look within yourself, go into reality and say, is this good enough? Is it good enough? even if it is inadequate to all the systems, the promoted systems that we have in our culture currently. I know for me, I had to keep it really simple. So I just remember thinking, well, I know in my heart, I do not mean harm. I've never intended to harm anything. I've always wanted just to be loved and to love. I could go into that and a brutal, radical honesty with myself. Go into, even though I've fucked up here and I really sucked at this and I tried and I didn't want my family to judge me. It's like, but I just sucked at what they wanted. I couldn't do it. Like, maybe I'm dumb. Maybe I'm inadequate. And you know what? If I am, I have to go into that being okay. Because the truth of the matter is, it is what it is. So you go into what is fundamentally real. Getting rid of all of this identity attached to what society thinks you should be. What your parents thought you should be relative to what their society growing up was. What your ex-boyfriend or your spouse, your boyfriend, all of these people bring some form of programming. That they may be using to validate themselves and to validate others, right? And so you've got to be pretty radical in terms of how you identify me. The goal is to remove the subjectivity of cultural dogma. Opinion, right? And to know the difference. Or just know the difference. This is radical dogma, and this is radical truth. There's a big difference. Just know the difference.
Yeah, and it's just learning to be okay with differences. I think that was always my problem. Like, I always was different.
Me too.
And I knew I was different, and as hard as I tried to be like everyone else, it just failed miserably.
Yeah, and you never really feel good about yourself. You always just feel like you suck.
Right. So it's like taking out that bridge of, well, this is who I am, and this is where I think I should be, and get rid of trying to cross over to the other side and realizing I'm on my own little island and I'm okay with this. I don't need to be over there.
No. And if someone expects you to go over there, you have to really look at what you're willing to suffer for. To accommodate for someone else. What their needs are. I
had a big moment too at my class reunion. I've had this ongoing, I can't say fight with the girl that I went to school with, but we had a falling out years and years ago, and it just never was resolved, and it was always very uncomfortable. And so I finally, I've been wanting to change that for the last few years. Like, I'm just exhausted from this whole drama. And so I said something to a friend who said, well, why don't I bring her over here and I'll kind of mediate and we'll have a discussion. I'm like, great, let's do it.
Let's do it
and get it behind us once and for all. So she came over reluctantly, and I was cool with it. I wasn't nervous. I was just like, it's time. It's so ridiculous how long this has gone on. And she kind of chewed me up and spit me out a few times, and I just was like, all right. It can't be any worse than what we've been through before. So
can we just
let me have it. It's okay. Just get it out, and maybe then we can move forward from there. And we did it. I mean, by the end of the night, we were sitting next to each other, and I feel like we were both comfortable with it, and like we were interacting. It boiled down to we were the last 4 people in the place, and we walked to our cars. And I don't want to be her best friend. I don't want to pick up where we left off. I just want to be okay with like if I bump into her somewhere, I just don't. I don't want that bitterness inside me anymore. I don't want her to be bitter when she sees me either.
Yeah, like there's some closure to something that.
Yeah, just get it over with.
Good for you. Good for you.
So this was a big weekend for me.
I love it. And it sounds like it was amazing.
Yeah. Yes, it was. It really was a big learning experience for me.
So tell me how your eating has been.
My eating's been really good, actually. I'm.
And you say that relative, so let's talk about what this is relative to. Because if we were in the diet dogma, it would be you didn't have any sugar, you didn't have any carbs, and you stayed away, and you kept and you brought food, so you didn't have to eat what they were eating because it's bad, and we want to stay on target.
Right.
No.
I've removed the labels. It's not good. It's not bad.
Yeah. So when you say it was good, you're saying I didn't use food in an abusive manner.
Exactly. And I didn't. It really wasn't my first thought every moment.
Isn't that awesome? That is huge.
Yes.
Okay, so binge eaters, you heard it, right? That's amazing. To someone who is stuck in the perpetual fear of being, deprived, removed of food, it becomes magnified, and it's just always there. You know what I'm talking about. That's why you brought that up, because it's like food wasn't a thought. It wasn't there.
Yes.
It wasn't there unless I'm hungry. Let's see what we're eating. And then you pick and choose what you're eating. And there's no drama while you're looking at the food. There's no, oh my God, that's bad. Oh my God, I'm doing something wrong. Oh my God, I'm going to have to fix this. I've ruined it. There's none of that.
Right.
It should have felt really depressurized.
Yes. And it's a wonderful feeling.
Isn't it? So many people think that's what happens after they lose weight.
Yeah. No, it just takes you into a whole new level of, now that I'm here, how am I going to stay here? And then that's your new focus.
Mm-hmm. And then food becomes even more threatening. And it becomes less lenient. You become more strict with it. And now it's hard to breathe. And there's pressure on your chest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now the only question, that was one of the things I was going to talk to you today, because I tried to put down a couple of thoughts, so that I could remember to bring them up when we're on the phone. But I didn't. That's not my first thought, and it has not been my first thought. But on occasion, I do find myself slipping into that. All right, I'm hungry. Gosh, I didn't have dinner yet at 7:00. My goodness, I got busy doing something. Which is great that I can, forget to eat. Yay.
Mm-hmm.
That never happened before.
Mm-hmm.
But now, once in a while, I do find myself, kind of reviewing what I ate all day. Well, let's see. I am hungry, but let's see. Well, I did eat a piece of cake at work today.
That could
I'm
be
keeping score almost.
Yeah, and some of that is natural, just out of thinking, just in terms of nutritional diversity. But that's not necessarily coming from what sounds good. What really sounds good right now, you're still managing it. That could be because you're afraid to gain.
Right. And that's what I'm trying to get out of that. I know that if I truly listen to my body and let my body decide, okay, it is hungry, what does it want, whatever, and tuning into what's happening right now in the present and not, well, what did I do this morning?
Yeah, you'd have to, so you're clenching still. You're clenching onto it still. It may not be so tight that you're bleeding, but you need to release it some more.
Right, and that's what I know I need to, and it's just, how do I?
Well, you have to go into, if I'm brutally honest with myself, and I just allow my body to direct, what sounds good right now. What if I want mac and cheese? What if I want a baked potato and some meatloaf? I mean, I'm just throwing stuff out there.
Sure.
And I'm just I'm radically honest with myself. I have to be okay with how the body responds to it. Because if I'm not, I have to think about what I ate this morning and you have to use a program that's been installed. to diminish the risk of gaining. So you either can use the hardwired route and be okay with reality, or you go with a brainwashed route in thinking that you can get around reality. Yeah. You have to really expose yourself to the truth. And so that's what I mean by you need to let go. You need to really surrender this now. Are you at a place where you could absolutely expose yourself to the radical truth of the body? If you fully and completely surrender. So you're still clutching onto it, just clutching on. That ego is still holding on to, but you can't gain more weight. You can't gain more weight. Well, then you have to hold on. Then you have to hold on to that brainwashing. You have to hold on to it. You have to keep it in there. You have to, because you never know. You know, and so the full release, I want you to imagine what that will feel like. It's like going completely blind to the food controls. Totally and completely blind to food control. Tell me how that would feel.
Well, it is a freedom if you can trust enough to let go to do it.
Trust enough about what?
Trust enough that your body is going to know how to take care of you and that you don't have to try to manage it.
Well, how are you defining take care of you? You're defining it by, I trust that I won't gain weight. Nah, I know you're not even saying that. That might be what you were just saying without even realizing that's what you were saying.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Maybe it's still underlying and I'm trying to...
Well, you're in a process of letting this go. Right? So what you've let go so far has been transformational. So what would happen if you fully release it? To where you will never be guided. There's no... All diets and all forms of religious dogma around food are permanently blacked out forever.
I'm hoping that happens.
It doesn't just happen. It's not going to happen to you. It's not going to be done to you.
I have to choose to do it to myself.
You do. Yeah, this really comes down to you. It will not change passively. This is an active process because you're the one who's holding on to the brainwashing because it serves you. It serves the fear of gaining more weight. So you're holding on.
Yeah, you're right.
So go into what would happen if you really were honest. Because this is what you're just not being honest. You could say, oh, I'm kind of lying to myself. Yes, you are. It's like saying, I can't handle the truth. There is the feeling that, but I can't handle it, isn't there? If I let go, I don't think I can handle it. If I gain weight, that's what you're talking about. You're holding on to the weapon, right? The weapon you're holding on to is the dieting management. The background noise of you shouldn't eat this, you shouldn't eat that, you need to eat this, you eat that later. Oh my God, you have to compartmentalize this. That's the animal brain that is only there serving the ego, right? So if you black out all diets, all forms of management, and you are forced to rely on this internal physical navigation around what tastes good, what sounds good, and what your body says when it's hungry and how much. So there's no concept of even how much you should be eating. It's guided at the moment you're actually eating. You could have a huge plate of pasta, spaghetti from Italy in front of you, and you don't know how much you're going to need to eat until it's actively changing. Your chemicals and hormones are actively changing. And you go, oh, that feeling is gone and I'm feeling sated. And if I keep on eating, I'm going to feel uncomfortable. I'm going to stop. That's when you know, whatever that was, whatever it took. right? That's telling yourself the truth. That's the truth of the body, right? So the fear is if you tell the truth and you let the truth guide everything, that you might not feel that you are capable of accepting the truth of the physical outcome. So you stay in a state of denial. There's a state of don't look at it. Don't look at it. So you clutch onto the diet because you're not willing to look at the truth or expose what's the truth, right? I can't handle the truth, so I'm going to keep on enforcing a lie. You know, I'm going to enforce something that's not truthful with my body. It's truthful with some type of system that I was told to follow. It's the truth of the system. It's not the truth of my body, because the system holds the key to staying thinner. Because I cannot handle if my body gets bigger. So what if you surrender, if you let go of, and you black out all diets and you live truthfully with whatever the body's telling you? What if you gain 15 pounds naturally? And it's naturally holds there on its own with no management, zero management.
I guess I would just have to let go and be okay with it.
Well, that's the question, is can you handle that? Could you handle that? Really go into that. Could you handle it? That's the reality of the body that you're in. It's giving you all sorts of life. But if you were truthful about its hunger and its need for diversity, what is its natural state? Not its unnatural, manipulated state. Its natural state. Would you be okay with it?
Oh, I want to force myself to say yes.
Well, don't, because you need to tell the truth. Would you be okay with it? What this is going to force you to do is really look at why. So don't lie. Don't deny it. Go into, would you be okay with it? Go into it. Feel this out. What if it did happen? So go into that truthfully. If you actually fully and completely surrender all diets as the weapon that you are using to hide from your fear of reality with the body, if you surrender all of those things that keep you in denial, can you handle the truth of this body? What it is wired to be on its own?
I don't know if I could handle it.
Well, clearly. So go into it. The good news is you said, I don't know. You're right. You don't know. So go into it. If you are free completely from all forms of management, and the body on its own completely and naturally manages itself, and it's 20 pounds heavier than you are right now, on its own, natural. There's nothing that it needs from you.
Well, I guess the brain would adapt because it was happy that it wasn't feeling insignificant and paying a price and suffering.
You mean the body?
Well, I think the head would just accept what the body was doing because it's not paying that high price anymore.
Yeah. You get something out of surrendering.
Like you start to adapt. Like, well,
yes.
This is what I've chosen.
Yes, you adapt ahead of time. It doesn't. You don't adapt as it occurs. You have to adapt ahead of time. If you don't adapt ahead of time, you're going to clutch. That's the problem, is you haven't adapted. You're not adapting, so you're still clutching to managing and controlling food for the body, right? Food for your ideal, to what you're comfortable with, right? You're still clutching because you're not adapting. So the question is that you would have to adapt to what it is truthfully if you want to remove the clutchingness of the diet. Thinking about it, worrying about it, organizing it being important completely. You have to really go inside of yourself and ask, can I adapt to this body? Because at this point, you're forcing the body to adapt to you, which is why you're using diets as a forceful tool to keep it from what you can't adapt to. Or you don't feel a sense of adaptability. I love that you use that word because that's so right on. Can you adapt? And you have to really look, and this is what's really underneath this here, is why do you fear the body in its real state? Why wouldn't you adapt to that? What is it that you're holding on to that would make you believe that you can't handle the body in reality? Why?
I guess just the fear that I won't be loved if I...
That is your fear that you don't love it, that you don't love yourself. So that's what we have to get to, is you won't be loved if you're... But what does that tell me about how you feel about yourself?
That I don't trust being different or trust
you don't feel lovable. Intrinsically, you do not feel lovable. That's you.
But I want to be lovable, but I...
So you have to then take ownership of what that is. So if you were to surrender this and gain 20 pounds, are you saying you're not lovable?
I guess because when I gain 20 pounds, I don't love myself.
Well, exactly. That's yes, you're correct. That is why you are afraid of it, because you don't think. It's you that doesn't think you're lovable. And you're projecting that as if everybody thinks that you're only lovable when you're thin, right? We talked about that earlier. It's like, clearly you validate your friends.
And maybe that's why I need to remind myself that even though my friend is getting heavier and it's obvious and she's not happy with it.
No, that doesn't work.
I have to reinforce the idea that she is lovable.
That's not going to work. That's just, you see that as an example. That's not going to work. You cannot use how you value other people, because this is your survival. It's not their survival. It's yours. So you cannot just remove that thought.
Right, but I think why I kept dwelling on that was I'm trying to make a point to myself. Well, why would people think differently about me if I gain weight if I don't think I know she's still the same? Like, I'm trying to...
Yeah, but it has more to do with
to believe it through an example of another person.
Yeah, and that won't work. That's what I'm just trust me on this. I'm trying to save you from wasting your time and effort right now. Just eliminate that. It won't work. You need to go in yourself and ask, am I truly worthless? Me. Of course, no one else is worthless, but I am. This is your subjective you that's saying this. It's your thoughts of it's how you identify who you are relative to these perceptions. They're not really you. It's just a perceived you relative to I am valuable thin. Well, really question the truth of that that evaluation. What if you gain 20 pounds? What if the body that is supplying you life is bigger? What if the condition of the body you're in changes? Does that mean your value changes?
No. But it's just believing that.
Yeah, you believe that. So to you it is true.
But I mean, it's just me. I have to believe
That's not true. Yeah,
my value won't change.
Correct. You have to say, well, the body has nothing to do with me. We're separate entities. So this really comes down to separating the body from you. Do you change if you get in a car wreck and you become a paraplegic? Right? There's the extrinsic reality that changes, undoubtedly. But the real you-ness, like the sense of existence that you have, does that change?
No.
Same thing. It feels the same, right? Remember the beach scene? Remember the beach scene? The beach.
The burying of the
just being at the beach.
Not nice person, that beach scene.
Well, that person's come back, so don't worry about that. I'm talking about the beach scene. You couldn't see it. I'm talking about, so does it mean if you gain 20 pounds that the body's reception of the beach and the life that it supports and these awareness it gifts to you, because you're not doing shit. Okay. You're not doing shit but judging the body. That's all you're doing, right? It can't get bigger, right? Well, why? What's that going to do? What's the perception that it's going to do? Well, I won't be lovable. So are you saying, so what you've done is you've confused who you are and your lovability with a body. So you have to, in yourself, ask, well, am I not lovable if I age, if I gain 20? Is that really something worthy of diminishing love?
No.
And now to see it within yourself. So you might have in that moment when you were just doing that going, well, no one deserves that, as if it's other people. I need you to go within yourself. So if you go blind, think of all the physical, you're going to die, right? Was this body not worthy of life? If it was 20 pounds heavier?
It would still be worthy.
Are you still worthy? You know.
Yes. Yes. I know I am, but I just always feel like I have to prove it to somebody. I don't know why.
So that's a sign that you don't know. Okay, so if you're reaching for validation, that means you are not secure in it. So you say you are, but the truth, if you tell yourself the truth, you're not secure in your own self. You truly do not think that you are good enough.
How do you fix that?
Why don't you tell me?
I don't know.
Well, you'd have to take responsibility. Right?
Take responsibility for what?
For validating yourself. And that's what you're not doing. You're not taking responsibility. Why do you think that is? Why wouldn't you take responsibility to validate yourself? To go, I'm pretty freaking awesome. Whatever that is. Why do you need someone else to go, oh no, you're awesome. You're awesome. Now you're good. Why do you need someone else to do that? Why would you not take responsibility for it? What are you afraid of?
Being wrong, maybe?
Well, isn't that relative to interpretation? Because you are wrong. Relative to someone else, you're wrong. So you have to be okay with that. Remember when I said to you a little bit ago, you're the only one consciously aware of what's going on within your own consciousness at any given moment. No one else has that awareness within you. No one. So if someone outside of you says you're wrong, how do they know?
And why am I willing to believe them over myself?
Over your own experience of it. It's like you're in your own experience. Why is your experience within your experience wrong? Why do you got to use what they think it is outside relative to their perception of what they think? It has nothing to do with reality on the inside of your consciousness. You're the only one aware of what's going on within your reality. No one else. It is impossible for anybody else to be consciously aware of what's going on in your consciousness. Nobody on the face of this planet can know exactly what you need, when you need it, and how much, and to what degree. Not your mom, not your dad, not a sister. I can't. Nobody. So if you are using other people to validate you, you will always be lacking. Because how does anybody else really know what's good for you? Right? They can only project onto you what they think is good for them. That's all they can do. So is it going to really work out if you keep on needing other people?
No.
It will always be insufficient. Always. And it's understandable why. It's not because they're inadequate. Adequate for themselves. It's just you're not taking responsibility. So how are you going to know, how are you going to get a sense of value no matter what physicality you're in?
By believing that it's enough, no matter what?
Yeah, the truth of your reality is your reality. And what if it's wrong? That's my reality. That's what I'm in. I'm doing the best I can with whatever it is. So if it's wrong, I'm figure it out. But right within my truth, this is the truth, right? And it's good enough for me. Because it's the truth. To go outside of that is like lying. Makes sense? To pretend it's something you're not and to try to... It's almost like you're taking your free will and giving it away. I am no longer free because my will is whatever they say it should be. So if they say my body's not good enough, then it's not good enough. So you're not taking the reins of your will. What's your will say? But what if it's not good enough? Well, that's the truth. So what? So what if it's not good enough? That's the truth. So you might as well work with it rather than distracting yourself with something else outside of reality that's not going to do anything. Am I making any sense right now?
You're making way too much sense.
I just never know if I'm just off in La La Land.
No, not at all.
So you go into that question and really think. If you just allow the body and you just tell the truth of it, are you okay with it? Are you a good person? Go into yourself. Feel inside of it. Does gaining 20 pounds change it? Does being 20 pounds less change it? Does any physicality really change the sense of reality that you have within yourself?
No.
Are you saying that or are you feeling that?
No, I know I am the same person inside. I know I am.
Yeah. So
and I have to get beyond feeling like I have to prove to people. I have nothing to prove.
Well, that's the truth. And if someone wants you to prove yourself to them, you got to really question why they want ownership of your life. Again, it's like I can see they need to do that for themselves, and that's what they should do. To prove to themselves with themselves, that's what they should do. But should any human being, to include yourself, have to go outside of their reality and lie to be accepted?
No.
Especially when it requires insanity, depression, grief, misery, insecurity, clutchingness, all of that obsessiveness, constantly thinking about what you're eating.
It's not worth it.
It's not to me anymore, right? I don't mean harm to anybody. So if I choose to lean a certain direction socially, I'm not doing it to hurt anybody. I'm doing it because it feels right to me. Right? What I think about abortion, my feelings come from within. It's not coming from up here anymore. It used to come up from my brain, where I was indoctrinated to say this is what it is and this is what you believe. And now I can go into, well, what's my heart think? How do I feel if I tell the truth? My heart feels this way. Well, it completely conflicts with what I was brainwashed to believe. So I have to be okay being seen as bad by people who use the brainwashing. Make sense? That's just one example of the same thing.
Sure.
So you have to get a sense of like, well, my heart says this and it could be wrong. And you know what? But it's the truth. So I'm going to just tell the truth and honor whatever that is, because that's the truth. And you have to be okay that people who believe strongly that you should be exactly how they are and think the way they do, they're going to reject you. You have to be okay with that. And that might be what you're struggling with, is that you're not quite okay with people thinking you suck. Maybe that's where you need to go in your head. Are you okay if you tell the truth of your reality, if you have this reality body, people don't like it? Are you okay? Will you be okay with that? If it means that you are free from being a slave to pretending to be something you're not so that other people approve of you. Right? It's like saying, I don't like country music. It's depressing. Well, what if they don't like you because of that?
Well,
right?
You can't force yourself to like it.
Right? I don't like this rage metal music. That doesn't mean you can't listen to it, but I just don't like it. It doesn't gratify my heart. Right? So the willingness to just be authentic, not to be anti anybody, but just to be like truthful. Again, you're not trying to control other people by having a heart-focused life. You're just being honest. You don't have to be anti-metal music or anti-country or anti-rap. You're anti-Christian music or you don't be anti-anything. You just have to be okay with what is in your heart and recognize that it's important to you to be authentic. So do you see how this is so backwards from what you've been doing?
See how what is
it's backwards, yeah, because
this whole thing this whole new way of thinking is backwards.
Yes, or just honoring your reality. It's like, I love reality. Like, I'm in love with my reality. It's not like, again, it's not the narcissistic, self-righteous, self-promotion, inflated idea of my pride. It is like, whatever that reality is, I'm deeply and madly in love with it. It's beautiful to me. It's authentic. It's so human. It's so real. And I'm in love with that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm willing to express it, even if it is ridiculed and judged and mocked by other people. Because do you feel the difference? There's a different feeling in that than to be afraid of reality because you might not be lovable. Do you feel the difference?
Oh yeah, I feel it. And I felt it when I had this encounter with this girl this weekend at the reunion. Because I just was at a place where I feel different. I feel like it is, I'm going to be okay with the outcome. And to sit there and let her just chew me up and spit me out and be okay with it. Like, you know what? Okay, maybe I did deserve this. Or
yeah,
maybe I know this is who you are, but I just need to do this for me. I'm not trying to put on a show for anybody.
Okay, that's awesome that you have that to reference. So imagine that someone is yelling at you after you've gained 20 pounds. Because you're not, it's just, because it's the truth, whatever it is.
Well, the funny thing is, there is no one in my life that would yell at me if I gained 20 pounds.
I know. That's never been the case. It's you that does that. That's why we have to work within your...
I'm the only one yelling at
Correct. Myself. So you have to be willing to do it with yourself. I am not going to pretend to be this alternative self anymore. I don't want it. All I want is the love of my reality. And the body isn't me. It's not my reality. Why project yourself onto that? Did you choose anything physical that you have?
No.
Right. No. Did you choose eyesight? Did you choose any of this? Are you choosing the texture of your hair? Are you choosing your height? You know, no, it was just a gift. You were given this as a gift. It is providing you this consciousness. It's providing awareness. You're not even doing that. You're not even aware of the thoughts you're doing or you're creating. Your thoughts aren't even yours, you could even say. They just come. You know, and so when are you going to take responsibility, right? And you say, I'm going to start choosing my alignment with reality. So that is a choice. That's your will. So there's a will within your living sense. And that's what you do have power over, is your will. So is your will going to be towards getting favoritism with others? Or is it going to be favoritized from within?
It needs to learn to be friends with the will from within.
Yeah, the will of your life needs to be really you need to look at your reality versus what other people think your reality should be. Go into your reality and your will is driven from there. You just have to acknowledge within yourself that your reality can drive this will that you have. The will of your life, what you want to do with it. You're in the driver's seat. The problem is you're not right now. You're in the passenger seat waiting for someone else to take control, to tell you where you should go. You need to get in
kind of like I wanted this just to happen to me and
not have to it's going to show up. No, you have to decide, I'm going to get in the driver's seat. This is my consciousness. I'm the only one aware of what I'm perceiving, what I'm living in, what feels gratifying. You're the only person. You're the only one experiencing your consciousness. No one else is in your consciousness. They're in their own, right? So should someone else be driving your consciousness so that you feel validated? It's good because I'm doing what you want me to do. It's great. Well, I can't. So you need to take the driver's seat. This is taking responsibility and realizing that even if I suck at it, it is still my life. My existence, if you want to call it that. It's the body's life that you're existing in. So take it. Take it and go. You're the only one that knows what works for you, right? And what's gratifying. Is your weight something you want to be in front of you? Do you want your weight to be important?
No.
So the only way to remove it is to be unconditional about whatever the weight of the body is.
Yeah, you're right. It's like, it's kind of pointless if I were to sit here and be sad every day that I wasn't born with blue eyes.
Totally. It's like, why can't you just accept the body? Just accept it. Inhabit it fully and completely as a authentically beautiful, working, good enough body. And you know, when you die, when the body dies, you're going to have to let go of it. And you're going to have to let go of it is an identity. You're going to have to let go of Julie. So why can't you just let go of it now? Why can't you just be like, I'm not this body. I am just experiencing this life. And why do we have to have a name? Right? Why do I have to differentiate myself from people? Why can't I just experience this ride and drive it? Be like, ooh, I want to try this in this reality. Oh, I want to try that in this reality. Oh, I'm figuring out. Oh, okay, I want to experience. You figure it out. But if you're waiting for someone else to take that and go, okay, you're doing a great job, you're never going to get anywhere. You're constantly right? Because you're focusing on getting validation. You're good enough. You can do it now. You're good enough. You can do it now. Okay, I guess so. Oh my God. But what if I hit that block? Well, you might hit the block. What if I get pulled over? You might get pulled over. So, not part of the fun?
Yep.
So what if you gain 20 pounds? So what if the body you're in order for you to get that freedom, requires 20 extra pounds?
Then I guess that's what it requires.
So does it matter to you?
No.
How does that feel?
Honest.
That's good.
Yeah.
Because 30 minutes ago, you were not saying that or feeling that.
No.
It should feel super relieving. Like, no shit, I'm never going to do that again. Who cares? Why would you even focus on that? That's ridiculous. What a dumb thing to fixate on. Because it's not you know what I'm saying? It's like a created problem. There is no problem. It's a created problem to separate me and the body. It's like taking me out of the car. Like, I'm not going to get in there. Why? Because I might be 20 pounds heavier. So, but no one will like me. Well, the truth of the matter is that's the car and you're you, but someone's not going to like you even if you look the way they wanted you to. They're not going to like you because they don't like themselves. They like conformity. So they want people to conform. So they don't know who they are in their authenticity. And how are they going to approve of you authentically if they're not authentic? So it takes people that have the willingness to be authentic to actually promote authenticity. So why not be that?
Sounds divine.
It is divine. That's a great word. Okay, we are over on time. Let's stop recording.